Strictly in plot terms, Nosferatu is about a Victorian-era guy who gets sent to meet a vampire lord, but then gets harassed and tortured by said lord until he signs a contract, not realizing the contract was actually signing his wife away, not knowing the lord was actually a man the wife had a past relationship with of some kind, and then the husband falls into a river, and Nosferatu sails to where the wife lives, and the husband wakes up and he starts studying the occult, and Willem Dafoe's there, and then they realize she's in trouble, and also that her evil lord has brought the literal Black Plague with him, and then she kills the lord in a murder-suicide and the plague stops. Why does the plague vanish from the earth when Nosferatu dies? Magic. Did he spread the plague to anyone else before he died? Yes. Why doesn't it keep spreading out to other people? I don't know. I respect art. I respect production. This is a bomb-ass movie. But there is a difference between confusion and intrigue. Confusion is like, wait, what's happening? And intrigue is like, wait, what's happening? One is a reaction to dissonance, the other is an anticipation of harmony. A wise shaman named Arcane Wit, go follow him on the gram, once said that all music is built on the principle of resolving dissonance. You know how you can play a 4-chord progression, maybe even an 8-chord progression, but the more freaky minor 7s and other flourishes you incorporate into your song, the harder it gets to pull it back together with a big strong ending chord. Similarly, a writer is welcome to add more and more layers of meaning to a story, but if you can't tie it all together at the end, it's going to be very unsatisfying to the audience. And I think if you consume enough stories, which most of us do, you have an intuition as to where the conclusions and revelations should be hitting. So when it's the 2-hour mark and the story is more dissonant than ever, you start to get the feeling that the logic of what's happening will never be revealed, that you'll have to fill in all the gaps yourself, and maybe you start to check out at that point. By the way, complete tangent, Nosferatu is portrayed on screen by Hollywood's favorite optosynchronously challenged Nepo baby, Pennywise himself. And I, for one, see this as a missed opportunity. You could have cast a freak of the circus variety. You could have put another Klaus Kinski on the map. R.I.P. Unk. But instead you just took a conventionally attractive dude who everybody pretends to think is scary because he did something with his eyes one time, and you made him completely unrecognizable, which would be tolerable if he wasn't obviously a young dude doing a voice. Bill Skarsgård has never touched a crack pipe in his life, and realistically that would be the only way for somebody of his age to accomplish the demonic timbre required to play this role. The audio engineer did his best, but they made him fight an uphill battle. Imagine what that guy could have cooked if they gave him a finer cut of meat. Like Keith Richards or a very adventurous Al Pacino. This is not what this video is about. Anyways, symbolic dissonance is a term I use to describe what happens when the symbology of a story, what it means, gets tangled up with the plot, what it is. And the rules of the story sporadically shift back and forth between two different sets of logic, the real world logic and the symbolic logic. Let's say you wanted to write a slasher movie where the monster symbolizes depression. And you're really proud of yourself because it's an ice cream monster and the protagonist's depression comfort food is ice cream. But how do the characters kill the depression monster? By going to therapy? Oh, he's right behind you. He's going to stab you in the neck with an ice cream cone. Quick, let's do some DBT and breathing exercises. You can only honor both your symbols and your plot if you find a way to defeat the ice cream monster that ties off both of those loose ends. If you take out your gun and shoot the ice cream monster and he dies, what does that say about depression? That it can be smart, like any old op. And if the way to defeat the ice cream monster is by talking to a therapist, then what does that make the ice cream monster? I guess he was all in your head. People will write movies like this and they'll be in denial of the fact that they're doing it, and they'll just be like, why isn't it clicking? It's because your story has two lines of logic that contradict each other, and no small tweak is going to fix that. You need to add, subtract, or change something major. Maybe the character does kill the depression monster with a gun, but he got the gun from his therapist, and he only saw his therapist that day because he made a big choice, and so he wouldn't have added the gun to his inventory if he hadn't took a stand against his depression already. Our protagonist later killing the ice cream monster with the gun is just a formality. It's a symbolic representation of the deeper character arc that's happening independently of it. But Nosferatu is he's magic, and he's a vampire, but he's actually just the guy she used to live with, but he's carrying the plague, but actually he is the plague and the vampire is just a symbol for that, or it's the other way around, or he's just death. But what does that even mean, that death wants her? Like, to kill her? He's death. He does that to everybody. If death even wants that, oh wow, cool shot. And again, I appreciate symbolism. I appreciate levels of symbolism, just not symbolism soup. And soupy symbolism might be your jam. Maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe you and I just process stories differently. But I've been hanging out in writing circles and talking to writers for like the last 4 years now, and I've probably seen a dozen versions of, what if death was a real guy and that was just his job? And each and every one of them suffered from this exact problem. I don't mind when stories go the you can't kill an idea route, but I think once you do that, you've committed to your character being a force of nature, and you're not allowed to treat them like a character anymore, meaning you're not allowed to kill death. I do more symbolic exercises in this video if you're interested. The video you're watching is not sponsored, but I wanted to take this time to plug the Liberation Institute. They're a mental health nonprofit operating in California and Oregon. They charge on a sliding scale so that people can actually afford therapy. Nobody is turned away on account of finances. They have like 70 real professionals working there. So it's a pretty big operation. Just go to therapy, just get therapy is, I imagine, a rather exhausting thing to hear for folks who know they can't fork over $150 every time they feel anxious or depressed or otherwise scrambled. So yeah, check out Liberation Institute if you have no one to talk to. They're pretty chill. What did you think of Nosferatu? Did it make sense to you? Like the video or I'll put you up for adoption.